They're guides to the realm of spirits. They know path to invisible worlds and secrets of earthly existence. Their sacred knowledge is received from the ancestors. For thousands of years, people have been asking them for help in healing illnesses, becoming more successful, and getting rid of lack of money and failures. In Kazakhstan, people call them Buksys. The whole world knows them as shamans. Who are they? Gifted psychologists or people of power? Phenomena or phonies? And what secrets do Buksys keep? Why do people trust their lives with shamans?
У тюркских народов
Among the Turkic people, who were the ancestors of the Kazakhs, Buksys were the same as shamans. And I think if all of them had been charlatans, who just misled and fooled people, then this practice, this institution, wouldn't have existed for thousands of years.
не просуществовал тысячелетия.
What does possess the souls of the sick, and how to cast it out? It's the scariest thing, a real demon that devours us, you see? How can you suppress it? Only with the help of zikr. How did Qobuz win the horse racing? Qobuz uprooted the oak and still won the race. You see, these spirits, they were really omnipotent.
Fire, one of the most powerful yet treacherous elements. In ancient times, people believed that spirits of the flame could give warmth and comfort. Yet, if the spirits got angry, the destructive fire would be inevitable. Only special people, called shamans, could negotiate with the spirits of nature and control earth, water, wind, and fire. I'm Daniel Besedin. This is Searching for Mystery. Today, we will learn about Kazakh Buksys and hopefully reveal some secrets of these extraordinary people.
On a cold winter day, our filming crew left the city heading west, past the village of Uzunagash, to the well-known places of power. These are the resting places of 5 prominent Kazakh figures of the past. For dozens of years, they have quite a reputation. Popular rumor claims they were saints and calls them none other than Bes Ata, which means 5 fathers. They are Kaynazar Ata, one of the most impartial activists of the 19th century; Sarıbay Ata, one of the fairest judges and the first Kazakh military leader with a Russian rank; Suyunbay Aronoğlu, a poet; his illustrious student, Zhambyl Zhabayev; and Tuktabay Ata, a Buksy, Kazakh healer of the 17th and 18th century. And we are going to visit his grave.
Now, I was told the road from Almaty to Tuktabay Ata's gravesite takes about an hour and a half. So far, it looks this way. The road is fine. It's all sealed. And yeah, it's all winter. And it's all really cold outside. We're very lucky that we're sitting here in the car. We're gonna get to that place very soon.
In a few minutes, we will reach our destination. You can see an unusual structure right ahead, a brown dome and a concrete pointed fence. For more than 2 centuries, here lies the man who is considered one of the most legendary Kazakh Buksy of the past. This mausoleum, however, was built relatively recently, in 2008.
This dome that you can see behind me was constructed right above the grave of Tuktabay Ata. You don't usually see domes like that. It was built by one of Tuktabay Ata's followers. It's quite unusual, and I guess it has a certain significance. The way it's built, the shape, and there's a hole right in the center That's the same way the Kazakh yurts have that hole called shanarak, as far as I know.
They say this place is always crowded. People not only from Kazakhstan, but also from neighboring countries such as Kyrgyzstan and Russia, and even guests from far abroad come here. What is their purpose? And do spirit of the Buksy, as well as the land in which he's buried, help our contemporaries? To our surprise, even in the cold early morning of a weekday, we found a group of pilgrims here.
Tuktabai lived at the end of the 17th century, beginning of 18th century. There's not a lot of documents that we have in order to really say what happened and what didn't happen. But as you can see, it's 21st century and people still come here to his grave. They come with prayers, they come for healing. I spoke to some of them, they say there's a certain energy in this place that they can feel once they come in contact with it. Whether that's true or not, I guess that depends on how strong your faith is.
While the pilgrims are praying and performing their rituals, it's time to meet a descendant of Tuktabai Ata, Shirakshi Nurlan Alpizbai Ola. He is the caretaker at the house and grave of Tuktabai. Shirakshi, loosely translated, means a custodian of the spirit or custodian of the light of the deceased saint.
Hi, I'm Daniel Besedin. Nice to meet you. Hi. All right, so you can tell me about this place.
Assalamu alaikum, Daniel. How are you? Our honorable forefather Tuktabai is buried here. He was famous for his gift of healing. He was considered a saint. Daniel, come in. This is our house. There's a portrait of our ancestor Tuktabai. It was drawn based on the features of his children and descendants. This is a portrait of the grandson of our ancestor. This is our grandfather, Aljan. That is, he is my grandfather too. This is a house. This is a historical portrait. This is all that's left. A modest one-story house is located not far away from the mausoleum and keeps the memory of Nurlan's legendary ancestor. Here you can see not only his portrait, but the oldest heirloom of the family, Kobus, which is more than 200 years old. With its help, famous Buksy healed people and worked miracles. Unfortunately, there's very little historical information about Tuktabai. We know only years when he lived and that he was one of the strongest Buksy of his era. They say he discovered his healing power at the age of 13 when he healed a person and earned himself the nickname Bala Buksy, which means healer boy. People also said that when he treated people, everybody would see a red tiger. At 13 years old, he was a sheep herder for a local rich man. Around noon, he suddenly felt ill and ran to a neighboring village. At that time, a sick child of the rich man lay in a yurt there. So Tuktabai ran straight to this yurt and immediately climbed to its top. The healers who were nearby at that moment called him Bala Buksy and saw a red tiger next to my ancestor. The red tiger dropped a drop of saliva on the sick child and he recovered soon. Since that time, people began to call my ancestor Bala Buksy. Later, he had a dream in which he saw Kobus. In a dream, he was told that if he went to a tree, then he would find the Kobus there, and with its help, he would be able to heal people. There would also be an anvil next to it, so he would have to give it to his close relative, who would become a blacksmith. Our ancestor decided to go there, and the Kobus actually hung there. He took it, and with the help of that Kobus, became a Buksy and began to treat people. Today, few people know about it, but kobus is not just a Kazakh folk instrument with an interesting shape and rich sound. In ancient times, kobus, along with a tambourine and other attributes of all the shamans around the world, served as a key to the world of spirits. Korkut Ata, the legendary creator of kobus, is also a very controversial figure. Saida Yelimanova, renowned expert on Kazakh ethnic music, and Abdesh Tolyobayev, ethnographer and doctor of historical sciences, understand the subject matter very well.
Korkut, он же покровитель Баксы, и он создатель кобуза.
Korkut is the patron of Buksy and the creator of kobus. At the same time, he's a folk hero. Everything related to him is unclear, because our activists are constantly trying to lay their claim to him somehow. Sort of declare him a prominent Kazakh composer. But they fail at it, because he's a mythological character, you know? He's between the worlds, he's neither alive nor dead. By the way, there's a real quote from one of the ethnographers who collected and recorded legends and wrote about shamans, Buksys, and about Korkut. This is an actual and very challenging problem, you know?
Korkut, он общий персонаж для всех тюркских шаманских верований. И одним из главных, так сказать, идей.
Korkut is a common character for all Turkic shamanic beliefs. And one of the, so to speak, main ideas in shamanism is an escape from death.
Вообще человечество всегда, оно, конечно,
I'm talking about avoidance. I mean, the search for ways to avoid death.
находит,
Generally speaking, humankind has always sought these ways.
странствует по всему миру
And Korkut eventually found that kind of place.
и видит везде роют могилы.
He used to travel all over the world, all over the earth, and everywhere he saw graves being dug.
То есть он видит, что везде существует смерть. То есть везде человек.
He asked, "Who is this grave for?" And they answered him, "This one is for Korkut, that is, for a human."
Место
So he realized that death existed everywhere.
на поверхности
Death would reach a person everywhere and hit everyone. As soon as he found the cherished place on the surface of the water, he spread a large carpet there and played his kui on his kobus.
именно в это время.
I mean, during this performance, death couldn't overtake a person. Tuktabay Ata also healed people with the sounds of his kobus. Even today, there are people who don't trust medical science and turn to those who have knowledge of a different kind and are able to cure terminally ill patients with the help of secret practices. Such people were even more widespread during Tuktabay's time. People say that women who couldn't get pregnant often asked Buksys to help them. Could you tell me if there were real cases of people actually being healed here in this place? Many people come here for healing from the illnesses. Last year, I was sitting in the yard one day and a young man came up to me and started a conversation with me. He wanted to know why I didn't ask him why he had come, and I asked him about it. He said that he and his wife had been married for a long time, but his wife couldn't get pregnant. So they had been sent here. They went to the mosque for advice, and their imam sent them here to read surahs from the Holy Quran. They spent some time here and decided to return home. When they got into their car, his wife had a seizure. They wanted to go to the hospital, but people talked him out of it, saying that that was the sign that his wife was about to heal and everything would be all right. After this incident, his wife gave birth to 3 children. The man introduced me to his children. We chatted a little, and they left. For 9 years, we have witnessed many supernatural events. People who couldn't sleep at home, who suffered from insomnia, came here and fell asleep. Many people feel better here. Allah has blessed this place. People ask Allah to fulfill their wishes and they come true here. This place helps a lot of people. Even if this place is open to anyone in need, there are rules here that must be strictly observed.
As in any holy place, there are certain rules to be followed. As you can see here on the sign, obviously men are to be dressed properly, no shirts, obviously no smoking, no littering, no alcohol of any kind, clearly. And obviously women should dress modestly, no pants or short skirts.
Nurlan Alpazbay-Ulu tells many amazing legends about his ancestor Tuktabay. To believe whether they are true is a personal matter for everyone.
There's a few legends about Tuktabay. One of them that I heard is quite fascinating. I mean, it sounds science fiction. There's a story that he was passing by a river and there was some festivities happening on the other side. And one of the men challenged him to get across the river somehow to join them. So what happened, he asked to set up a yurt on his side of the river. And he used kobuz, the musical instrument, in order to transfer the whole yurt with all the things in it from one side to the other side. Obviously, whether that's true, there is no photos or anything that can prove that it actually happened. What happened next is basically once they had their feast on that side, he managed to bring the yurt back and continued his journey.
There's another interesting legend. Once, Buksy brought his kobuz to take part in baige, horse races, riding it. Other people didn't take his idea seriously and tied the kobuz to a tree trunk. Imagine their surprise when suddenly a strong wind began to blow, uprooted the tree, and made kobuz cross the finish line first. Many people wrote about the story in which kobuz competed in horse races. There are many texts about it. Those who didn't want it to participate in the baige tied it to an oak tree. Kobuz uprooted the oak and still won the race. You see, these spirits, they were really omnipotent. This powerful instrument of Buksy, the mystical 300-year-old kobuz, is still kept by the descendants of the mysterious Tuktabay. According to family beliefs, it still has a special power. When touching it, someone feels cold and wants to pull the hand back, and someone feels heat and vital energy. But this kobuz can no longer be played. Last time it emitted sounds when Aljan, grandson of Tuktabay and grandfather of Nurlan Alpazbay-Ulu, its last owner, who had the gift of healing, died in World War II. After the death of Buksy, no one pulled new strings and didn't play this instrument, as it is strictly forbidden.
To summon arwahs, guardian spirits, or to banish shaitans, spirits of evil diseases, shamans often used hollow sounds of kobuz or dull rhythms of tambourine or low-pitched throat singing.
In fact, we know that when meeting external and inner demons, Buksys also often resort to religious chants called zikr. According to many studies, music, singing and sounds can both wake up unseen forces and calm them down. It's the scariest thing. It's, I don't know even how to say it. It's like a terrible fire-breathing dragon inside of us, you know? A real demon that devours us. You see, how can you suppress it? Only with the help of zikr, because there are two types of zikr. The first one is silent and solitary, when a person says these prayers alone. To do this, you need to count bits of tasbih and say some prayers for each bit. For example, La ilahi illallah Muhammad Rasul Allah. This is the main Muslim testimony of faith. And the second zikr was invented by Khoja Ahmed Yassawi. He's our spiritual mentor, kind of feast of reason. I mean, what else can we call him? He was the greatest philosopher, and maybe we can call him an educator as well. He was a Sufi. He came up with a loud zikr.
Ya Allah Tağala, осы Құраннан болған сауап Түктібай әулие бабамызға тие берсін. Алла Тағала атамыздың жатқан жері жайлы, топырағы торқа болсын. Өліге иман, тіріге бірлік, береке бере көріңіз. Раббана атина фи дунья хасанатан ва фил ахирати хасанатан ва қина ғазабан би рахметика рахманир рахим. Амин. Аллаху акбар.
But where do the shamans go during the ritual? What forces do they meet on their way? Only a real shaman can answer these questions.
Hello, my name is Oraz Abul Khair. I come from a shaman family. Our dynasty lasts for 17 generations. Oraz Abul Khair's appearance isn't much different from ours. He doesn't have long hair, a fringed suit, fancy jewelry or accessories. However, his inner confidence and original bracelet can tell us that we are dealing with an unusual person. Oraz developed his gift from an early age under the guidance of his grandmother. Well, when people find out that my grandmother was a shaman, they imagine some kind of old woman dressed in skins and living in the forest. This is not true. My grandmother taught botany and biology at an agricultural institute. My gift manifested itself when I was 4, and from that moment on, my grandmother began to tell me legends, take me to the wild with her students, something like that. But I discovered my gift under different circumstances. I was 4 years old. We were visiting the village of Bakanas, near Almaty, where my grandfather was buried, and we stayed at the house where his family used to live. At night, I slept in the bed with my father, and in the middle of the night, Dad couldn't find me. I've been a chubby kid, and like for Kung Fu Panda, the stairs were my worst enemy. It was a 2-story house with a spiral staircase. Dad looked for me on the 2nd floor, and eventually found me. I yelled, "There are shadows!" Somehow, they calmed me down by morning. Another family lived in this house. They asked what kind of shadows I saw. According to my mother, I began to describe someone, and it turned out that I was describing the grandfather, or rather the great-grandfather of this family. You see, all Kazakh people know this world exists. It is near. It is not somewhere below inside the earth. Its inhabitants are invisible, but their presence can be felt. So it goes. They can get in contact with spirits, you know? Such people actually exist.
It's hard to believe, but there's actually real scientific publications that describe how to recognize a real shaman. As it turns out, these people with supernatural abilities have one more bone in them, one extra bone. This mysterious bone causes so-called shamanic illness. When shamans die, the bodies fall apart, the bones come out, and then shamans miraculously resurrect themselves. I'm wondering if it's possible to determine the authenticity of this using MRI scanning.
The Kazakhs had a lot of influential Buksys who were famous among common people. But those Buksys were very confident, even in their bravado. They believed in their own actions, thoughts, and results of their own games. The so-called Buksy games. So I've actually met a few real Buksys. There were also charlatans, but I met them later, in the 1970s, when I began to study this phenomenon. There were real Buksys who actually believed in their rituals and made others to believe them. Generally speaking, among the Turkic people who were the ancestors of the Kazakhs, Bakses were the same as shamans. And I think if all of them had been charlatans who just misled and fooled people, then this practice, this institution, wouldn't have existed for thousands of years. Actually, shamans were very gifted people. They were musicians, they were people of many parts, they were actors. I mean, they could make a person believe that they could heal. And this general element of psychotherapy, which was present in shamanism, I think it played a greater role than, let's say, in some kind of potions, some of the medicines. Oraz Abulkhair also believed in the power of the word. Contrary to the common stereotypes about shamans, this young man didn't hide in a cave with a tambourine, but graduated from a prestigious university in Europe, worked in the field of psychoanalysis and psychological assistance, but only until the spirits reminded him of themselves. I had a dream. I realized it was in East Kazakhstan. I dreamed of 3 elders who showed me that black water was rising from the ground. And I realized that this is very bad. I woke up and I realized that I needed to go there. Oraz says, when the spirit take reins, all the doors get immediately opened, and obstacles just disappear. It was true for that day too. For one reason or another, clients of the young psychologist began to cancel their appointments. Funds turned up, and even a taxi driver turned out to be well-versed in the subject of the upcoming task, as soon as he found out who was in front of him. This person said that a couple of years ago, scientists had found a new mound, done some excavations, found the remains of a queen, and taken them to the museum for research, and so on. There were 3 villages nearby, and from then on, the trouble began. Local women could not get pregnant, and the floods were especially strong. The elders performed an ancestral worship to appease the spirits, and the ghost of the grandfather appeared to one of them and said that a shaman would come and fix everything. One shaman, of course, can't solve such a serious issue. He needs special, magical attributes. In his work, Oraz Abulkhair uses a tambourine called dangara and a staff called asatayak. He also needs the support of the spirits. Arwahs are ancestral spirits that are of great importance in our culture. Because a person can't live alone, his ancestors are always behind him. They support him, they guide him, they protect him. For example, back in the old days, warriors went into battles shouting Arwah. I mean, those warriors were not alone, since the spirits of the ancestors helped them to win battles, especially when the forces were not equal. When the young shaman reached his destination and performed some necessary shamanistic rituals, the most interesting part began. I climbed the mountain and stuck my staff into the ground. Before that, I performed certain actions. I poured some milk into my palm and ran this palm over my eyes and over my head. Then, I stuck the staff into the ground, holding my hand like this, and I stood and soaked up the events that took place there. If you did everything right, then nature will answer you. And I stood there and I felt something strange in the palm of my hand. Something rough touched it. Naturally, I shuddered, because this was an instinctive reaction, so to say. But I stood on, and when I finished, this feeling stopped. And when I opened my eyes, there were 3 wolves standing nearby. These were real wolves. After all, it was in eastern Kazakhstan. Soon afterwards, they left, and I stood for a long time because I didn't feel my legs. It was so scary. As it turned out, one of the wolves was licking my hand, which had milk on it. It was an indescribable experience. I must have kept standing there for another half an hour or an hour. I don't remember exactly. When I came down, my mother asked me, "Is everything all right?" And I replied, "Yes, everything is fine." This is a very extraordinary story. It's up to you whether you believe it or not, and you decide what to think about intermediaries between the worlds. For thousands of years, people have resorted to the help of shamans. In an era where there was no evidence-based medicine or psychology, people would go to Buksys for help and received it.
Sadly, or maybe thankfully, I didn't witness any miracles. But I had a very interesting trip to the tomb of Taktabayata. And meeting the actual shaman was an amazing experience. I'm Daniel Besedin. It was Searching for Mystery. I'll see you again.